welcome to the Yarn Parlor. I'm Allison. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as ALoveIt1. This is episode 37, Tuesday, January 3rd. I think that's right. Yeah. It's my podcast about knitting, spinning, and knitwear design. You can find the show notes. I usually post them on Thursdays in the Ravelry group. I know I forgot. I didn't forget. I just didn't do last week's episode. So I will probably be posting both of those this Thursday. Last episode and this episode's show notes. Welcome to new and returning viewers. So today I will be talking about the January cal I'm running. What else? What else will I be talking about? The Swatch challenge and January's yarn. Trends in the knitting fashion community. And I have one knitting whip and some spinning to show you. And then at the very end, I will have some small video I took in Jerusalem. I was there for the 6th night of Hanukkah, and so I took some video and some photos that I'd like to share with you guys. So let's jump in with the January sock cal. Okay, so the January sock cal is going to be for the month of January. I will put a thread in the Ravelry group for chatter and finished objects. Just post a photo of your finished pair of socks in there, and that will enter you to win a Sunday bag of your choice. So one of my ice cream sundae project bags. And yeah, it's just kind of a cal to finish up those socks. Maybe you cast them on Christmas Eve, maybe you cast them on 4 years ago. I had my sock challenge last year and now have all of these sock whips that I just like a little motivation and help in finishing. So I have an idea of the two socks I would like to finish. The first pair is this one. It's just a plain vanilla sock. There's my progress keeper from Burgundy Pumpkin. Look at how cute that is. I love that gingerbread. That's where I was last time, so I put in the heel. And I already have one of the socks done, but I'm hoping I can get this one finished. I should be able to, but who knows the crazy that I conjure up. I've been looking in Ravelry patterns and I'm like, I want to cast that on and that on. I have enough to work on, but I'm still like, there's more. I want to do more. I want to knit all the things. Always. I always want to knit all the things. But if I can stay focused long enough, I'd like to get that pair of socks done. And this pair of socks done. So I've got this one. And I've started the second one on those. So those are the two pairs that I am hoping to get done. So for the cal, you can start and finish a pair of socks in January, and that's totally fine. But if you want to use a pair that you started, that's fine as well. I'm hoping that you have like one sock left though to knit out of that. It's not just like, oh, I've got 2 inches of cuff, but whatever, I'm never gonna know, so you do whatever you want, really, in the scheme of things. But I would hope that you have one sock left. Yeah, so that's the January sock cal, and that's what I'm going to be working on for my participation in the sock cal. So next I wanted to talk about some trends that are going on in hand knitting community and in the fashion world. For hand knitting, one of the things that I've been seeing a lot right now is speckled gradient. You'll see it in one of the hottest shawls right now is Find Your Fade from Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Designs. Everybody's been posting photos on Instagram of their gradients that they're using. And she just did a cast on January 1st for her cowl on that shawl. Other people who have done a speckled gradient like that is Mr. Stephen West. He last July published Speckled Fade. The name of the pattern is Speckled Fade, which is a bias knit shawl, or a scarf, excuse me. He also did the speckled gradient style with his dotted rays. I think he republished the pattern in a speckled form or in this gradient form, or maybe he changed it up and did the speckled fade in the dotted rays, but he's got a pattern for that, or he's got photos of it. And he also just recently did it for his Garter Goodness shawl. And I'll put a link in the show notes for those patterns. Another knitter who uses this gradient style knitting is Orange Knits on Instagram. That's Mara Catherine Briner. And she is the designer behind the Jelly Rolls sock pattern, amongst others. I think that's one of her most famous ones, though. But she does this knitting gradient fade style, which is really interesting because I think with most of them, it's just you're switching every other row for your gradient fade. But with Orange Knits, she does more of a stranded work when she's doing her gradient knitting. It's very cool. Check her out on Instagram. I'll put a link to her in the show notes as well, to her Instagram page, because it's beautiful. The work that she does is amazing. I think she did a dotted rays. That was her when there was the dotted rays cowl. I think she did her dotted rays during that time and did it in this gradient. The other trend that I found in knitting was the Prada sweater. There's this Prada, it's from the men's and women's collection from fall 2016, and it's got this scallop or shell shape stitch pattern, people have been calling it. And I'll put links to those, the Prada runway collection, so that you can see what I'm talking about, or you can go on Instagram. Sweater Spotter has been talking about it, and Mason Dixon Knitting has even written an article about this Prada sweater. She's done some diving into where she could find it, where she, if it was produced, and see who actually knit it. So people have been, I think it was around November. I mean, the collection came out last February or March, and ads were starting to show up around July and August in magazines. And in the knitting community, I've seen more people talk about it. It was like the end of November, beginning of December. It started a lot of conversation on how to replicate that stitch, and even started some conversation on copyright laws, which I thought was quite interesting. So it was a very inspirational conversations going on about stemming from this Prada sweater. So I'll put links to a bunch of those places if you're interested in seeing how other people's take on how to make this stitch. Now for In Vogue. I don't have anything from the fashion world because I've been a little bit out of touch, which is kind of why I wanted to also add this into my podcast. But the fall 2017 shows will be happening in February and March, so I will have more to talk about then. Now, moving on to my swatch challenge. So I didn't dive so much into it last episode because I was doing a lot of talking like I am now. But I will go into the swatch challenge for this year. So I'm going to keep the 3 swatches per yarn, and I've added in, I want to do some more designing and sketching this year to go along with, to continue with being a little bit more inspiring with the swatches. Then the next step is designing, and the next step is sketching. And you can do it any which way. You could sketch, I mean, designers, they could start with a swatch, they could start with a design and then swatch. So just playing around more with the beginning design aspects. Last year I didn't want to throw in any extra yarns to go along with the swatch challenge. I wanted just to use the yarn of that month. But this year I want to switch that up a bit. I can throw in any yarn I'd like with the initial yarn, and even some of the yarns that I purchased, I got 2 different colors to do maybe some basic color work swatches as well. So just to play around more with the whole idea. Also with some of the swatches, I had to make smaller swatches, which I didn't want to do, but I only bought 50-gram skeins. So I made sure to buy at least 100 grams worth of monthly yarn. Another thing I wanted to add to the design challenge is an inspiration. So some kind of person, place, or thing to kind of guide my inspiration for designing, or to guide my designing with inspiration. So I can use that inspiration to either pick the stitch patterns that I want, or how I'm going to design the garment, use it in any type of fashion in that way. So just kind of extending my swatch challenge into designing and sketching and inspiration for this year. So for January, I was about to say March for some reason. For March, I'm using Knit Picks. Andean Treasures is January's yarn. This colorway is Finley Heather. I think all of their Andean Treasures is heathered yarn, the colors. And it's just a plain cream. And my inspiration is going to be skiing. That's my inspirational word for January. So I'll just start looking up some stuff and see if I'd like to swatch based off of what I find inspirationally, or design. This is 100% baby alpaca, 110 yards to 50 grams, so I've got my 2 skeins. It's a 4-ply. It's kind of loosely plied. Not sure if you can see it there, but it's so soft. A lot of people's comments were that it's soft as a kitten, and it definitely is. It's very, very soft. Some other people had commented that it's a bit itchy. I don't feel that way, but they thought, or they felt that some of the guard hairs were just too itchy for them, too scratchy. And because of this loose ply, other comments that I had come across were that it's a little bit splitty when they're doing cables or lace work. So something to keep in mind when I'm working on my swatches. The only other comment that I found that might be a problem with this yarn is that some people with the darker colors had problems with bleeding when they were soaking before blocking. So I wouldn't have that problem with this color, but that's something to keep in mind if you ever do work with this yarn. It's so soft, it really is. It's amazing. I can't stop playing with it once I start. Then I went over to the project pages in Ravelry for this yarn, and there are some amazing woven projects on the first page, which are very, very cool. I liked those. So that's for January. Moving on to whips. Okay, so I've only worked on one knitting project this past week, and that was the baby sweater, my Simon and Simona. Here is what I've done. Got like 3 inches added. This little snowflake over here was my progress keeper. And I'm almost done with the body, moving on to the ribbed bottom trim. I am going to extend this. I talked about my modifications last week, but I'm going to extend it to be more of a tunic, not a sweater. And I've already done my increases on the side of the body. Yeah, so that's that. Not too much work done on knitting. Next is spinning. So I've got a lot of spinning to show you guys today. Finally I have some spinning to share. So the first spin that I want to show you is from the orange and the blue that I have been working on. The blue is Fleece Artist that I picked up from Knitty City, and it's their Rivulet Sliver, which is 65 merino, 17 silk, 18 linen, and this was 50 grams. And I've spun a 2-ply. I was trying to go for light fingering, but it's not quite light fingering. It's more of a thicker fingering, but it's beautiful. I'm very excited about what I'm producing. It's super soft and fluffy, very springy. And you can see some of the orange rust in there. It's just beautiful. So I finished plying my first 2 singles. I still obviously have more left over that I have to do, but I wanted to work on the rust. I'm kind of going blue, orange, blue, orange. So this is the second singles of my orange, which is BFL Silk, 75-25. I have 100 grams of this, and this is on my Bosworth, and that's from Sweet Georgia. And this colorway is Cayenne. And here is the braid. So I've been working on my singles. I absolutely love spinning with this, which is really funny because my first spin was with BFL and I hated it, but I also didn't know about pre-drafting, so that was an interesting experience. But it really is so easy to spin BFL once you know what you're doing. I've really been enjoying spinning with this fiber, so it's kind of opened me up to spinning with BFL again because I was anti-BFL for a while. So like I said, this is my second singles I'm working on, and then I will be applying up the orange and then going back to the blue, spinning those singles, just to keep it interesting. The next spin that I had been working on was my Rainbows and Clouds from Hobbledehoy Batlings. These are I'm spinning a single, a light fingering. I'm pretty consistent with that. Light to a heavier fingering, but it's at least in the fingering range. I've already spun some of the clouds, which I think I showed in past episodes. So again, with this, I'm doing some of the clouds and then some of the rainbows to keep me into it. Yeah, so it's called Better Days Batlings, Organic Polworth Bamboo Tussa Silk Sparkle. There's her card. I love her stuff. Here's the Better Days Rainbows and Clouds Batlings. And then I am working on some rainbows again. And that's on my Golding spindle. This is kind of my default spin, is just singles. Anywho, I love how those are coming out. I'm very excited about all of my spins right now. I'm kind of getting back into a spinning groove, if you couldn't tell. Just want to spin all of my stuff and knit all the things, and can't make up my mind. So the next spin that I worked on for New Year's Eve was my Classy Squid Fiber Co. Champagne, which I ordered, I think it was 6 ounces, which is California Red, Organic Polworth, Muga Silk, Comer's Silk Noil, and Angelina. And when I first started spinning, I just wanted to do my default fingering-ish weight yarn. So that's what I first worked on. And then as I was spinning this, I was like, you know what? This would look amazing in a worsted, bulkier weight. See all the sparkle in there? I love it. Actually, I don't know if you guys can. I hope so. There's a ton of sparkle in here. But it has that beautiful coloring. Oh, I love it. I love this so much. Okay, so here is the bulkier yarn. This is less consistent. It's got some of those like hardly spun fluffs like right here. And I think there's one over here. But it's heavier and I still love it. So I was thinking I would either do a shawl with the thin and then knit a hat with the thicker one, or knit a larger shawl with both and just have the large running through a couple rows as an added like texture effect. So I'm not quite sure, because also last night I started spinning some more of this. I'm using my Acreworks for the thin, my Acreworks spindle, and I was spinning some of the thin. I'm just ripping off chunks and spinning it from the bat. There's some of that Muga silk, you can see the gold. Anyhow, so I'm spinning this one and I was like, this would be amazing as a woolen spun. So I might be sampling some woolen horizontal long draw yarn. Sampling, see how it goes, see how it feels, because it's the perfect prep, first of all, and it's just all, it would look really cool, because this kind of has the effect of what my woolen spun looks like. It's very inconsistent, but it would make it a loftier yarn, and I love lofty yarns. So that's why I really want to sample with the woolen spun, and from these three, I guess I will then decide what I'm actually going to do with the rest of it. So that's my champagne spin. Now, one of the new to me fibers in this is California Red, and so I just wanted to go over a little bit about the California Red breed. So it gets its name because it has red fleece, or the lambs are actually born rust or red cinnamon type of color. As they mature, their fleece changes to a more oatmeal beige color. But they still keep some of the red around like their necks, and it doesn't always go away, or doesn't 100% go away, the red guard hairs. The staple length is 3 to 6 inches and the micron is in the 30s, so it's a little bit more rustic, but it's still very soft. I would wear that against my skin. It's not, plus, well, this is also mixed with Polworth, so that will add some softness to it. And it was a breed that was created in the 1970s when a Tunis was bred with Barbados sheep. They are bred for their fleece, meat, and milk, so they can be used for all three things. And that's a little bit about the California red sheep. And those were my spins for this week. So I also wanted to talk briefly about Blaine Fleece and Fiber is doing some spin-alongs that I think I will be joining. One is for the next 2 months, they're doing a spin-along for Icelandic roving. And then she also does a distaff spin-along, which I will be joining. I did that last year and I had a lot of fun doing it. So I think for the distaff spin along, last year she did it for a day. This year she's doing it for a full week. And I think I'm going to finish my loop bump as part of that spin along. So I will be doing lots of spinning in the next 2 months. That's it for this episode. Oh good, it's nice and short. I want to try and keep them a little bit shorter. But I will see you in 2 weeks where I will be showing off more whips for knitting and spinning, and it will be the first episode that I will be talking about fit. I'm thinking I will be going on the topic of necklines, so we'll see about that. Thank you for joining me today. I will see you next time. Bye. If you are sticking around to see some of my Jerusalem video, just a couple quick words on that, I guess, before I show them. It's a lot of fun to go to Jerusalem during Hanukkah because you get to see all of the lights. People set up their Hanukkahs outside of their house, so you'll look down, they're like little stone alleyways, and you'll look down and you'll see all of the lights up the whole alleyway. So it's a lot of fun, and some of the times the families will sit outside and play music, sing songs. It's very joyous and festive. It was a lot of fun. And I also went to the shuk there and took some more photos of the sufganiyot, which is jelly donuts that are eaten during the holiday, which was a lot of fun. I just ate jelly donuts every day. Not so great for my weight loss. So here's some videos and some photos of that, and I will see you next time. Bye.